We will now hear public comments. Tylana Hudson.
I'm speaking on the equity audit. I stand here not only as a teacher, but as a community member. I have lived in this district for over 10 years and have seen tremendous growth. Over the past couple of years, teachers have gone through highs and lows in education, from the pandemic to the recent controversy in regards to CRT. Do we even know what CRT really is? Do we have courses in it? Is it even mentioned in our secondary schools? CRT is not even offered in university until some schools are in their junior or senior year and possibly postgraduate studies. But some of the members have ran on this fear. In short, CRT has nothing to do with making people feel bad about themselves, but to offer insight and perspective on how to better provide services and opportunities. But that's not why I'm here. It was made very clear on Monday how people feel about equity versus equality. Do we even believe in equity? Do you even think or agree that people should have the same opportunities and avenues as everyone else? It was practically said that teachers that look like me are the reason why kids drop out of school. Do you even know who I am? Have you set foot in my classroom? Do you even know my background? Have you stopped and thought to yourself why kids even drop out? I guarantee you that it has nothing to do with the color of my skin. Instead of attacking and questioning teachers, ask yourself, what can I do to best support them? How can I get them into education more so that students have not only someone to look up to, but they have themselves that someone can understand them? I hope that all of you really dive deep into what was said and the damage that it has caused. I'm really not seeking an apology because it will be wasted. I'm seeking that if you are going to sit on the board, that you have to realize that teachers who are day in and day out of striving, not only to provide an education that is equal, but an education that is full of equity. One last thought. I never had any Black teachers growing up. One experience caused me to change my course in life to become an educator. I became the Black teacher that I strongly long for. And despite the false stats that were shared, none of my students to this day have dropped out due to the fact that their teacher was Black. Instead, they have thrived and are changing the world one day at a time. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Judi DeHaan.
Thank you, Board, for allowing me to speak again this evening. And let me begin by stating that I support Scott Henry and the goal of ensuring that all children are provided with the resources and curriculum they need to be successful. The audit does not focus on ensuring that each individual child will be given the tools they need to increase their performance in reading, writing, and arithmetic. Rather, the focus has been on conducting an audit to validate the necessity for implementation of these divisive SEL programs, which hampers recovery of student learning due to the pandemic. Why didn't the board and the public receive the entire equity audit report to effectively prepare for this meeting prior? Why was the board only given the executive summary for the working session? What are we trying to hide? This shows a lack of transparency and commitment to assist all students recover from the results of the pandemic. We should be focused on improving the performance of 56% and 58% in reading and math proficiency, respectively. The recommendations of the Millennial Learning Concepts Group were to use Fort Worth, Austin, and HISD as models for supporting these equity initiatives within Cypher ISD. As pointed out on Monday, HISD's performance is not indicative of a stellar performance. The opposite is true, and their COO is under indictment. With respect to Fort Worth, the co-chair of Fort Worth's Racial Equity Committee recently resigned under pressure after charges of doxing were made. She had posted the phone numbers and addresses of 4 families who had filed a lawsuit against the school district for imposing a mask mandate and obtaining an injunction against it, and also left a profanity-laced voicemail from one of the parents whose phone number she posted. Her response was, "Some people find my choice words offensive, but really offensive is the 4 white parents who could hold so much power." Are these the models that we want to use for Cypher ISD? I would say not. I again reiterate my support for Scott Henry and the other trustees to end CRT and equity programs at Cypher ISD.
Our next speaker is Gerald Daniels.
Good evening, Dr. Henry, and trustees and fellow Cy-Fair parents and citizens. My name is Gerald Daniels. I have lived in the Cy-Fair School District for 45 years. I have 4 children and 2 grandchildren that have graduated from Cy-Fair. I also have numerous family members and friends who have worked in the Cy-Fair ISD. For the last 12 years, I have mentored middle school boys in the Cy-Fair School District. And I want to get to what I had to say. I have reviewed the executive summary of the Equity and Culture Audit and strongly urge the board to implement the recommendations resulting from that audit. We began by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, and a portion of which states, "One nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all." Some of the things, I said it was a portion, okay? But it is under God. I'm a Christian, and I do believe that. I did not.
Okay, thank you. Audience members, I need you to refrain from engaging with the speaker. Go ahead, sir. You can.
Thank you. Thank you. The audit recommendations are data-based, and they address issues that are clearly evident in this report. They're clearly evident. And so if the school district is going to continue to progress and be the school district that it has been, it is going to have to make some changes. And so this audit is the first step. And to reject them out of hand and summarily say that all the things that I heard
Need
at
to
the
wrap
meeting,
up, sir.
thank you, at the meeting on Monday night is not going to get us there. So we need to work together and get this done.
When members of the audience choose to interrupt one of our speakers, we are adding that additional time to that speaker's time. So I appreciate the forbearance of the audience. Please be as courteous as we can. We may not agree with what the speaker is saying, but let's be courteous. Thank you. Our next speaker is Alexie Swinsky.
Yes, I am addressing the racial equity audit, and this also, my comments also pertain to the racial resolution that was passed, and I have yet to see because I can't find it on the website. This report seems more like a report that has preconceived notions and ideas and not supported by research. I took 3 courses in statistics in college. This is not a consistent, reliable report, and in fact contradicts itself. On Table 2, in the executive summary, student discipline trends, are these percentages of students who were suspended, number of times each student was suspended? It's unclear. And also, trends are supposed to measure things over time. There's no time periods referred to, much less one time period to another. Another inconsistency in the report is Asians had the lowest discipline rate and also the lowest percentage of teachers and other staff were Asian, which contradicts the point made after Table 3 that students have lower disciplinary rates when they have teachers who look like them and share a cultural background. It just shows the study is inconsistent and should not be used in making decisions. It says one of the goals is to develop 21st century global leaders. I cannot find that defined in the study. I would need to, before I would take that seriously, know what exactly that means and how it pertains to good education. The racial equity report seems, like I said, more like a report with pre-planned conclusions than a true accurate research effort. In the executive summary report, Asians are not listed as a separate ethnic group in the student achievement table, whereas in the student discipline table, they are. Just another area of inconsistency. It's my understanding that there were trainings for teachers last summer that talked about white privilege and which made teachers embarrassed and shamed for their race. This is illegal. To quote from House Bill 3979, participation in any internship, practicum, similar activity involving social or public policy advocacy, a teacher, administrator,
Please
or other
wrap up.
employee
Thank
of a
you.
state agency, school district, or open enrollment charter school may not be required to engage in any training, orientation, or therapy that presents
Thank you,
any form
ma'am.
of race or sex stereotyping or
Thank-
blame on the
thank
basis
you,
of
ma'am.
race or sex.
Our next speaker is Ron Guidry.
Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak to this issue. Using race as a criteria for hiring has always led to discrimination against good qualified applicants. Race has never been a good indicator of quality of or character or ability of the individual. If a group is promoting a hiring policy based primarily on race and someone opposes such a policy, my question is, are there any racists in this situation? And if so, who? I believe we all oppose racism. Now, I know this may be a simple observation from someone that's been around a while, so please bear with me. Racism to me, is, in its simplest term, is either elevating some or suppressing others based purely on their race. It appears to me that a policy based on race, by definition, makes it a racist policy. And those that oppose such a policy are opposing a racist policy. I believe it helps if we make that distinction between racist people and a racist policy. I believe the color of one's skin should have no standing in a school district's hiring policy. That is if we want the best qualified teachers for our children. If we want our children to become more colorblind in their outlooks toward others, then we as parents, and especially...
You can, audience members, I need you to not engage with the speaker. It
That's-
slows down the meeting, it's disruptive.
If we want our children to become more colorblind in their outlooks toward others, then we as parents and especially as board members need to set the example. Let's try and set aside personal emotions triggered by key words and focus on the tenets of the policy at hand and what is best in the interest of our children. If you want to adopt a racist policy, just be honest in who you are calling a racist. Thank you.
Our next speaker is William Ellis.
Thank you. I'm both disheartened and disgusted by certain members of our community in their virtue signaling, bully tactics, and gaslighting Mr. Henry. Millennium's recommendations are not all substantiated by the data in this report, not at all. They're referenced, not his, HISD as a shining example of having better students-teachers ratios that look like each other is a racist comment itself. What school district on earth would look at HISD as a role model? Where are these community members? Where are these communities, the AFT, Lena Hidalgo, and the Houston Chronicle last summer when racially divisive media posts from previous board members were exposed? I don't recall their torches and pitchforks then. Of course not. It didn't fit their narrative. Mr. Henry, I want to thank you for seeing the audit report for what it truly is, political propaganda. Dr. Blasingame, I believe you identified the biggest weakness in the report, that being a lack of any input from the district's primary stakeholder, the parents. How can that be? Surely if the district is systemically racist and full of inequities, parents would have something to say about it. Mr. Scanlon.
Okay, guys, you cannot interrupt the speaker.
Mr. Scanlon, I want to pass on my sympathies to you, your family, and of course your daughter. Regarding your comments on disciplinary process and incidents, I too didn't see a single ounce of evidence or data identifying any correlation or causation of disruptive behavior and ethnicity. Research has empirically demonstrated the single most important factor impacting a child's academic success is a teacher. Therefore, it stands to reason that money, time, and energy taken away from a teacher with their students is an opportunity for improvement. A good teacher can do great things with underperforming students, regardless of the teacher or the student's skin color. Let's redirect further time, money, and energy from this social justice propaganda to the teachers
Please
and let
wrap
them
up,
do
sir.
their jobs. I ask the trustees.
Please wrap up, sir.
I
Thank
get more
you.
time for the
Okay.
interruptions. I have one sentence left.
What?
I ask the trustees respectfully
Audience,
disregard.
hold on, Mr. Ely, I'll let you finish. Audience, you need to be quiet. He has one sentence left. Please be respectful, and I will make sure that people are respectful when you are speaking. Please.
I ask the trustees respectfully disregard the unsupported recommendations in the audit and get on to the business of teaching our children. Thank you.
Our next speaker, and I do not have a clue as to how to pronounce your name. I will spell it. O-D-U-S, Odus, E-V-B-A-G-H-A-R-U.
I graduated from here. Come on, President Jackson. Thank you so much, Board. Thank you all so much for allowing us here to speak. I'm here to speak on item 7A, equity and inclusion. And you know, for me, for going to elementary school, middle school, high school here, graduating, Langham Creek alum, this is not Cy-Fair. This is not the Cy-Fair community I know. To sit down here and listen to what I just heard, this is not the community I grew up in. I have classmates that have texted me, Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. Like, I can't believe I'm hearing this from school board members that once taught me, that I once was in their home, that once welcomed me. Now we're feeding into political rhetoric that is just gone beyond a pale. School board members, when these comments were made, not one of you spoke out. Desmond Tutu said, if you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. I'm telling you right now, history is not going to remember us of choosing the side of the oppressor. We need these equity studies. People forget about slavery. They forget that the civil rights is just as old as many parents that are sitting in this crowd. You forget Cy-Fair High School has plethoras of water fountains. Why? Because it was a segregated high school. Don't forget the history of this school district. Don't let one comment let you forget that. Don't let these people tell you that they're scared of the very same people that they want to live in the same world in. Don't let these people who will celebrate MLK on Monday, but sit down here and tell me that I'm not equal. School board members, administrations,
Please
don't
conclude your
choose the
comments.
side of the oppressor today. Don't choose the side of the oppressor tomorrow. Do not choose the side of the oppressor for the rest of your days. Stand up for us. Stand up for these students
Please
who need
conclude
these
your
equity.
comment. Please conclude,
Thank you
sir.
so much for your time. Hey, they didn't stay on topic, so I'm not going to stay on topic. This is personal for me. This is personal for me.
Our next speaker is Bryan Henry.
I got to follow Odus. When commenting on the equity audit Monday night, one of the board members called for an investigation and firing over a professional development session on white privilege. That same board member implied, while comparing dropout rates in HISD and CFISD, that hiring more diverse teachers was either unnecessary or undesirable. As an educator myself, having earned my certification from Texas A&M, I know the importance of equipping all teachers to serve their students to the best of their ability. Research has shown that it is beneficial for a diverse student population to have diverse teachers, and CFISD should seek to hire more teachers who reflect the diversity of the community. If white teachers are teaching diverse students, it is imperative for them to have professional development that helps them serve those students. In my certification program, I was required to read a book titled White Teachers, Diverse Classrooms that helped me recognize unconscious bias, harmful stereotypes, and equip me to adopt culturally relevant teaching. This is not woke indoctrination in need of a witch hunt. This is what professional teaching in a diverse society looks like, and any individual who does not understand that has no business serving on a school board.
I'm going to go back to our second speaker who was not here, Cesar Espinosa.
Good afternoon. My name is Cesar Espinosa, and I'm Executive Director of FIEL. I'm also a proud parent of a Cypher ISD student, as well as my niece and nephews attend Cypher ISD. Si no empiezan a escuchar por lo que estoy hablando, entonces esa es una de las razones porque ustedes no pueden servir al más del 35% de la comunidad. Translate that if you need to help translating that. But basically, to summarize it for y'all, I said, if y'all cannot understand 35% of your students, which are Latino students and their parents, then there's something wrong with this board. A certain board member, which we'll call Tom and Jerry, said that if you hire more black teachers, then that would be a problem and it would lead to dropout rate. What in the Epoch Times are you reading that told you that was a clear statement to make? Find your news elsewhere or find another job, which I suggest you do both. But for the people that are here, you caused this to happen tonight. You caused this to happen tonight. And to further say, to add insult to injury and say that you are going to try to rescind the racism proclamation that you all made, which was a bold step for Cypher ISD, which was a good step for Cypher ISD, which made my niece and my nephew and my little sister say, hey, maybe for once I can go to Cypher ISD and not get scorned for speaking Spanish and be understood for something that I can't get rid of, which is the pigmentation of my skin. Man, you guys really do put it out there, right? And for those of you who are endorsed by BISMAT, are you really here for the students, or are you here for business? For those people in the crowd, I suggest you look into BISMAT and find out what they do. Because some of these board members, including Tom and Jerry, was endorsed by them. And you don't want to see coming back? You need to resign immediately. And that is not a request. That is the community telling you that you need to resign.
Your time has expired, sir.
Thank you.
We'll see you in the next election. And for all of you who love Scott,
Thank
y'all are
you.
as racist as you.
Thank you.
Please move on, sir.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Stacey DeMyer.
Good evening. Tonight I'm speaking about agenda item 11A, the resolution condemning racism and affirming the district's commitment of opportunity for all. I want to begin by thanking the board for signing the resolution and by doing so, taking a stand against racism and inequality and committing our school district to truly having opportunity for all. Before Monday night's work session, I was open to the idea of the board rewording parts of the resolution. The board president showed his due diligence in determining how they could go about doing this, and it was decided that the board would work together in creating a new resolution. However, comments were made at the work session that have completely made me alter my opinion on this approach. Board members, notably the ones who were not a part of the drafting of the original resolution, made extremely concerning comments during the equity audit discussion. One coined the term repeat offenders when referring to students during the discipline portion of the presentation, and another called the equity audit a pile of rubbish. He then implied that black teachers are the cause of a higher dropout rate in another district, something that is completely unfounded, by the way, and suggested that hiring more black teachers for CFISD is not something he's particularly interested in. This is considered to be employment discrimination and a violation of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This trustee must resign immediately. There is not enough time in these 2 minutes to go through every concerning comment these two board members made. Their comments clearly show that they have no business being a part of the drafting of a new resolution. I have zero faith they can contribute anything good and truthful to a resolution condemning racism. They cannot be a part of this process, and therefore the old resolution should remain as is. Recent events have shown that we need this resolution in this district now more than ever. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Our next speaker is Dr. Tara Cummings.
Hi, I'm Dr. Tara Cummings, parent and member of Cy-Fair Civic Alliance. I want to express my deep gratitude and respect toward the district and the trustees who commissioned the equity audit. CFISD is a shining example of exceptional public education. We are not, however, a perfect example. The only way to make progress is to continually identify and remediate our areas for growth. The equity audit unequivocally identified a number of areas, including the disproportionate discipline of our Black students, the need to hire more diverse staff, the need to develop and consistently implement clear equity practices district-wide, and the need to create an equity office within the district, and I hope we do those things. I expected that the results of the equity audit would confirm the ongoing need for the resolution condemning racism, and I was right. Two of our trustees, one of whom is deservedly at the center of the current outrage in our community, stated on Monday that they prefer to do away with the resolution entirely and not develop a replacement. That's beyond horrifying, though not at all surprising given their campaign rhetoric. Also horrifying was one of our new trustees' statements attributing poor educational outcomes to Black students and saying, quote, "opportunity for all, I don't like that." In his statements and his social media, in which he has harkened back to the segregation of the 60s, he has threaded a needle and stitched a straight line to his deeply seated racist worldview, which has no place in public education or CFISD. The community has responded with absolute ire, and rightfully so. His statement regarding Black teachers is simply not true. Anyone who understands the basics of research, who is indeed, and I quote, a big data guy, comprehends that the plethora of data over many years is clear. Black teachers and diverse staff are a boon to public education, period. His statements have caused immeasurable damage, most egregiously to our staff and students of color. It has also served to distract us from doing the important work of becoming not only an exceptional district, but an equitable district. To the board member who made those comments, the writing is on the wall. You need to resign and do so immediately. To our staff and students of color, I am so sorry that you have been subjected to the reprehensible, racist blathering of our newest trustees and their supporters. Please know that they don't speak for our district or our community as a whole. We trust you, we appreciate you, we value you. We belong to each other, and we will continue to fight with and for you.
Our next speaker is Frances Romero.
I'll be speaking on agenda item 7A. Mr. President, trustees, Dr. Henry, and members of the administration, I'm Frances Romero, proud mom of a CFISD graduate and also of a current junior in high school. I've also been a CFISD elementary school teacher, a PTO president, a VIPS board member, tutor, mentor, and currently CLC member and drill team mom. All of these experiences have given me pretty good insight into the needs of our students. First and foremost, we want our students to learn in a safe environment. The next most important element is quality teaching. We want teachers who are qualified and passionate about their area of education. Thirdly, it is important that in a school district with a 78% non-white population, that the faculty reflect the demographics of all of our kids. Teachers, administrators, and all staff are role models and can impact student success. A component of this is students seeing a reflection of those who look like them, but also those who are different. It is my hope that this board and administration continue to strive toward hiring a diverse workforce, and that the board, and adding this to the board monitoring system as a goal. The emphasis should always be student safety and academic excellence first, but it is important to put forth a concerted effort to expand that excellence to include a range of demographic backgrounds that are consistent with the richness of our student body. There is no reason that academic distinction and outreach to a diverse workforce have to be mutually exclusive. The two objectives do not have to be placed into silos. I am confident that this board leader and district leadership can maintain its high standards while seeking
Please
out
wrap up.
employees with whom the student
Please
body
wrap
can
up.
identify. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is Mrs. Nikki Cowart.
A warrior for students and those that serve them. Isn't that beautiful? I'll repeat it. A warrior for students and those that serve them. I would hope every person here in this room tonight would strive to be described that way, because that should be our focus, right? Working together to fight for our kids, all of our kids. Together, our AFT union members have always centered our students and unapologetically named that equity in race, gender, identity, ability, and common language is foundational to changing student outcomes. So despite the recent politicized rhetoric, we know an anti-racist education system is necessary to lift all students up. We cannot be divided and must move forward with our allies for their sake. There was discussion here on Monday night around the equity audit, and it included false statements, very hurtful comments. We ask that the board members here that believe racism is wrong, period, make a stand against it. On this eve of MLK Day, like Martin Luther King Jr., I'm reminded of another very strong Black leader, the late, great Maya Angelou, who said, "When someone shows you who they are, believe them." When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. No more excuses in our path forward so that we can all be true warriors for our students and those that serve them.
We do have one of our elected officials who stepped into the room who has signed up to speak, so I'm going to move ahead, but we'll come back and pick up everybody. State Representative Jon Rosenthal.
Thank you, President Jackson. Board trustees and superintendent, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak here. My name is Jon Rosenthal. I'm the Texas State Representative for House District 135. I'm very proud to represent Cy-Fair Independent School District in government, in our state government. Some of you might know that my father recently passed away. Now, my daddy was a lifetime educator who taught me to revere our teachers and education workers. So speaking on the equity audit, because when I saw one of our own school board members making a blatantly racist statement, I was shocked. Here's the direct quote from the discussion. Quote, Houston ISD, which I'll use to shine an example, you know what their average percentage of black teachers is? 36%. I looked that up. You know what their dropout rate is? 4%. I don't want to be 4%. I don't want to be HISD. I want to be a shining example. I want to be the district standard. I want to be the premium place where people go to be. When the backlash over this statement hit, that same member said that he had been mischaracterized, that when other people said those comments indicated black teachers, having more black teachers leads to poorer student outcomes, and anyone who says that should be ashamed of themselves. I think the one who should be ashamed of themselves is the one who said the words. You know what their average percentage of black teachers is? 36%. I looked that up. You know what their dropout rate is? 4%. I don't want to be 4%. I don't want to be HISD. The statement is racist on its face. There's no room for that in our school district or in our state. The statement is disqualifying for a board member for this community. And I'm going to agree with what Nikki Cowart said. When Maya Angelou said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time.
Susan Nichols is our next speaker.
Tonight, I'm Susan Nichols. I'm a 29-year resident of Cy-Fair. I'm the parent of 3 Cy-Fair children and graduates. 2 have already graduated. I have a senior this year. I've mentored in this district for over 7 years. I've spent my whole professional career serving the Cy-Fair community. I'm a candidate for a doctoral degree in leadership transformation with a focus in cultural transformation. I'm studying the demographics, and in fact, my thesis is on increasing intercultural sensitivity in a racially diverse community with a focus on Cy-Fair. I think I need to explain a little bit. I have a teacher bit of heart at me, and the difference between equality and equity. Equality is when each Equality is when each individual or group is given the same resources or opportunity. Equity recognizes each person has different circumstances and allocates resources and opportunities needed to reach an equal outcome. We, through working in nonprofit in this community, developing nonprofits, helping churches develop nonprofits, I have come to see that not all students have the same experience or circumstances in this district. There are various barriers, sometimes language, sometimes socioeconomic, sometimes access to resources, and sometimes knowledge on how to navigate those resources. If we are going to have a mission as a district to maximize every student's potential, then we have to recognize that not every student is the same. Not every child has the same access to opportunity. Our role as educators and adults is to be able to help position those students to have the maximum amount of opportunities to reach their potential.
Our next speaker is Ryan Lamb.
Hi, y'all. What's crack-a-lackin'? Oh my God, it's fun to be here tonight. So, we're all here for the Drama Fest, obviously, because we all love drama. Who doesn't? But let's cut to the chase. So, I'm here speaking on 11A, the Resolution Against Racism. So, as my experience as a Bridgeton High School junior, I've noticed that it's weird. We don't really see color. We don't really see people's sexuality. It's not brought up to us. It's not something we focus on. And I think that can be attributed to the fact that we're so used to it. We're so used to being just like, we know equality. We know what it feels like. Now, having some of our school board members having some of our parents, honestly, trying so hard to pull that away from us. Why is it that the students are the ones at the front line constantly having to fight for our own rights, for our equality, and for being able to be safe in the school district? I mean, come on. So, I know that a lot of people think that the parents seem to be, so important in the schools, but they really aren't. It's the students. And people have such a large focus that we need to be teaching arithmetic, English, science. That's what's the most important thing about school. But what's the most important thing about school? Making sure students feel safe. Making sure they feel that they are equal. Now, do we really want to be cutting things that make students feel safe at school for the sake of arithmetic? Do we need another child to be forced to commit suicide because they don't feel that they are protected by the school district? So, I guess what I want to say is, please focus on the students because we are the #1 priority of the school district. Thank you.
State Representative Jarvis Johnson.
Thank you so much. Let me be very brief. Let me thank the board, let me thank all the parents and the teachers that are assembled here today. As we talk about some of the things that are happening here, I'm not going to echo a lot of what has already been said, but I do want to take into account the student that just came. As we're talking about what's the most important thing that we must do here today is to keep our children at the forefront of the conversation. Comments made by the board member that would then try to be walked back by the same board member by saying that this is being used as a political ploy by outside or out-of-state factions is disingenuous in itself. As a young student in elementary school, one of the very first things I learned from my black teacher was to be honest and take responsibility for my own actions. What we have seen happen across this city, this state, and this country has been to allow people to walk back their statements without taking an accountability for them, only then to watch students use that same individual as an example. And that's where you see the division that is happening from the boardroom to the classroom. And so I ask that this board member take responsibility for the actions and the words that you have said. You made a horrible comment. You made a comment that was very hurtful to many people, black, white, Hispanic, and others. Take responsibility. Demonstrate to not only the children of this school district, but to your own children that sometimes you make mistakes and that you will take ownership for that mistake and correct it to make sure that the district stays intact and stays whole. With that being said, thank you to all of you who are being here, who are standing tall and standing strong. We must not allow these type of divisive comments to come in a way of what we're trying to do to educate our children. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Krishan Woods.
I'm here to speak on the equity audit. I wanted to bring attention to a couple of things. One was the term added value that was used by one of our board members, and he was relating it to whether students with discipline problems added value in the classroom. We know what our other board member did, disparaging black teachers and insinuating that black students don't add value, because he didn't think that we should be spending money hiring black teachers to teach black students. So I wanted to ask the board a question. Who does add value in CFISD? If black students and black teachers don't add value, do brown students and brown teachers add value? Do economically disadvantaged students add value? Do kids with disabilities or mental illness add value? Do kids with behavioral or discipline problems add value? Do the dumb kids who are at the bottom of the food chain here in CFISD, do they add value? I've heard my kid called that, because she's on the bottom tier of learners. That's where she was. She dropped out. She's gone. She quit. Couldn't do it anymore. When she went to her IEP meetings, they would tell her, "You're not on track for college. You can't do that. You're not allowed. We're not going to support that for you. But we'll suspend you when an entire school year you get harassed by a white kid, and then you go into her school to her lunch period and tell her to stop, and immediately you're suspended." So guess what? My kid knew she didn't add any value. My black daughter knew she didn't add any value. I stand in solidarity with all teachers
Please
of color,
wrap up, ma'am.
administrators of color, students of color. I expect you to work with that
Please wrap up,
equity
ma'am.
audit and make it matter in this district, and to my daughter.
Our next speaker is Vincent Daniel.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Vincent Daniel. I've been living in the school district for 24 years. My oldest daughter is a JVH Jersey Village High School graduate, a Hampton University graduate, and is currently at Boston University Graduate School. My youngest daughter is a senior at Jersey Village High School. One of my daughters was arrested at Cy-Fair for something she didn't do and charged with a felony. A felony. So I kind of understand how people can look at someone's skin and get charged with a felony with no evidence. Charges were dropped, of course, but I came to speak about the audit. The audit is there to help to look at the gap and look at strengths and weaknesses and see if you can improve the students, the conditions for the students and the conditions for the teachers. And at my place of employment, which is for the past 25 years, a global Fortune 500 company, we do the same thing every couple of years. We try to understand what do we do well and how can we improve. So I don't understand why people are so upset trying to make things better at Cy-Fair ISD. I was in the Army National Guard and Army Reserve with honorary discharge. And there was a point where I was prepared to give my life for the sake of this country and the freedoms that it offers. And this was during the Gulf War when I was in college. And the Jesus Christ that I know and follow does not support injustice. And there's no place for racism, ignorance in our society, and especially coming from leadership. And I'd like for you to own your comments and show me you have some self-respect and resign.
Our next speaker is Bryan Gator.
Thank you. Just bona fides really quickly. My name is Bryan Gaither. I went to high school in El Paso, Texas, which is down the road a bit. My mother is a retired Texas teacher. I have an undergraduate degree from Cornell University in history and 2 business degrees, masters related. The most recent which was at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, where I learned firsthand how we as Americans decide to educate black children. So just gonna say that up front. I did read the full report, and I want to thank Mr. Henry for his comments that motivated me to do so. And I'm here tonight to actually encourage you to implement all the recommendations in them. So I actually went and looked up some of the statistics. I'm a taxpayer, I don't have kids in your schools, but I'm funding the educations of everybody else. And the reason I do that is because 1, I support public education. And 2 is because I'm promised an educated electorate and workforce. And if you're really preparing one for the 21st century, they need to understand that they're moving into a world that looks very different than the one that we're coming out of. The report that I read and statistics I could find available publicly confirm that students who are not white in your district are 2.5 to 3 times as likely to drop out as the white students, despite the fact that they're 65% of your student population. I found that in Texas Tribune, I found it in this report, I looked at the bibliography. I think it's really shameful that people would look at a report like this, and I feel like I have the competency professionally to read and review this. I think it's really shameful that anybody would dismiss this just out of hand. My corporation, like one of the previous ones mentioned, is one that focuses on equity. We do actually take into account people's race when hiring. We do try to make preferences and find the best qualified candidates who support the diversity of our company. And I don't think this is something that's shocking in the modern world. I'm a little pressed that I should be here to have to sort of share this. I'm a busy person like most of you, and I'm clearly not comfortable with public speaking. But I think that you should actually implement all the recommendations here. And if you have to spend $1.5 million for that, do it. You've got $2.3 million, I think, that you want to spend on police cars tonight. So, you know, priorities.
Our next speaker is Bruce DeMyer.
Good evening, everyone. As you said, my name is Bruce DeMyer. I'm a resident of Cy-Fair. I have 3 children who are or will be attending Cy-Fair ISD schools. I'm here to talk about the equity audit. And one thing I'm going to throw out there, follow the last few folks, I'm a partner at one of the largest consulting firms in the world, and we do an equity audit on ourselves every year, and I take it personally. And I make changes to myself to make sure that we are empowering every single employee at our firm. Reading through the latest equity report posted online, there were some bright spots, including the board resolution being discussed. However, there's definitely some things we can improve on. A few examples: 1, Black Hispanic students, reading, math, SAT scores, AP participation, graduation rate, all lagging behind white students by a significant amount. Black students also received disproportionately more suspensions. Interesting, this statistic came up, and one board member, the data guy, attempted to twist these statistics by noting that only 4% of black students have received in-school suspension. In case you're wondering, this implies that white students have a much smaller percentage. Third, our teachers, principals, and executive leadership don't represent the demographics of our students. We all know that one board member who implied that if we had more black teachers, our dropout rates would increase. Just so happens to be the same person who twisted the data as well. In summary, the equity report provided suggestions including more clarity and a system-wide focus on these issues. System-wide focus starts at the top. How can we achieve that when there are board members who have misrepresented the data, implied black teachers provide a worse education, and referred to the group who conducted this report as an out-of-state political organization? I at least agree on one thing: politics shouldn't be in here. Unfortunately, all of our new board members happily received and advertised their endorsements from the Harris County Republican Party, as well as a doctor in the community who went so far as to call their opponents in written mailers radical,
Please wrap up.
pro-communist, anti-American leftists who are indoctrinating
Please
our
wrap
children
up.
in critical race theory.
Please wrap up.
My mother once told me, "You are the company you keep."
Our next speaker is Dr. and Pastor Evelyn Ogletree.
Good evening, everybody, and to our superintendent and our president and this board. I am Dr. Evelyn Ogletree. I am an African-American teacher, and I have taught for many years in 3 different districts. I know teachers of all races, and you cannot determine whether they're good or bad by their race. But I want to just come and talk from the heart today. As you know, I am the proud wife of Dr. Jon Rosenthal, a former board member, and the author and the reason why we're here with this equity audit. And I know him personally, and I know his heart. But what I want to talk about is my heart today as an African-American teacher. I am appalled at what was said. I am hurt. I am really cannot believe that this is happening in our district. I've been in Cy-Fair for a long time. I have raised 4 African-American men that are all college graduates, and they are all pastors, so they are godly men. My daughter is a college graduate. All of my children are college graduates. But as an African-American teacher in this district, I have to reflect back on the time that when you were in my classroom, it was a safe place. It was a safe place for all children. Most of them were white. You ask any white parent in here, or any of my former students, I treated them all like my babies, and I dare another teacher to mess with my chicks. My classroom was safe, and I trained my children to teach everybody respectful in this classroom. That's what an African-American teacher did. As an African-American teacher, I remember that an African-American parent came to me crying. She was at the low of the low, little alcohol on the breath, and nobody else wanted to talk to her. She said, "Can I tell you my story? Can you help my child? My child is failing." And I said, "I will personally be responsible for making sure your child excels." African-American male. Long story short, this young man has graduated from Prairie View A&M with his master's degree in mechanical engineering because I took him under my wing as an African-American teacher. And I see so many of us, we don't have
Please
money.
wrap up.
Yes, I will. But we spend our time and our energy, and I say, we cannot have this. Cy-Fair, you are better than this. Parents speak up. Teachers speak up.
Please wrap
And people
up.
go together, and let's be the district
wrap
that I
up.
know Cy-Fair is.
Please stop. Allie Fitzpatrick is our next speaker.
Hi, my name is Allie Fitzpatrick, and I'm a parent of 2nd grade twins in Cy-Fair. And I'd like to start by thanking our board for conducting the equity audit. It's obviously something was needed because, boy, somebody said the quiet part out loud, didn't he? And now we all know. We know what we have, and it's up to this board to get rid of him. He has shown us what a racist power grab looks like, manipulating data and misusing facts to further a racist agenda that damages our entire community, especially our children of color. In that board work session, old buddy boy mentioned that he wanted Cy-Fair to be a shining example for other districts. That will never happen if he remains on our board. The very fact the equity audit was conducted shows that the will is there in Cy-Fair to assess the systemic problems rooted in our system and progress forward in a meaningful and actionable way. Our trustees must embody the same mindset, and when we see by a trustee's own actions, language, and tweets that they do not, that trustee has broken the promise to students, teachers, and the community, and he either needs to resign or be fired. White allies in the community, if you consider yourself a white ally, it is time for you to stand up. It is time for you to speak up, and it is time for you to show up. This is not what we want in Sci-Fair.
Please
Black
wrap up.
teachers shine.
Please wrap up. Our next speaker is Ron Watson.
Sorry, I gotta get my glasses. My name is Ron Watson. I'm a 20-plus year resident of the district and father to 1 enrolled and 3 recently graduated students. I'm here to express my support for implementing the recommendations in the equity and cultural audit, along with my support for the resolution condemning racism and a commitment to opportunity for all. What triggered me to address the board was comments made by one of the new board members, along with the comments made by the other new board members during the election cycle. Their comments and tone are very concerning to me, as I fear the new district leaders intend to lead the district away from the mission of truly serving all the students of the district. Looking at the demographics shown in the audit, only 22% of the district students are white, but the teachers, the principals, and executive leadership of this district is anywhere from 63 to 72% white. Representation matters. And for a board member to say or even give the impression that 10% of black teachers is too much in a district where our black student population is 20% is just wrong. We, in fact, need more diversity, not just in teachers' roles, but in all roles, including the board. The gap is even more acute with Hispanics, with 15% of teachers relative to 45% of the students. I hope and pray that everyone that serves this district in any role would truly love and put the interests of all students above anything else. The audit flagged huge gaps in achievement for Black, Hispanic, and economically disadvantaged students that needs to be addressed. And having teachers that look like them, who will truly represent and advocate for them, is just the start. There's also a problem in how much and how severe we discipline our Black students relative to other students. Seeing the data and these problems, the question to the board is, do you really care? And will you work to improve these numbers? In regards to the resolution condemning racism, it's sad that anyone would even have to defend or advocate to acknowledge that racism exists and is wrong and that we should condemn it. But here I am having to urge the board not only
Please
to
wrap
acknowledge
up.
the truth, but to address these issues such that not only just 22%
Please
of the
wrap
districts feel comfortable, but all of the district staff and community feel comfortable.
Our next speaker is Latoya Crosbit.
Okay, we all know the comments made by the member. They were very hurtful. They made me furious and made all Black educators furious. And I'm hurt. I'm so hurt, I want to cry to tears. The district has not condemned your statements. And I want to know, do they condone the statements? Because you didn't condemn it, so you must condone it. Black teachers do not increase dropout rates. We work 8, 10, 12 hours a day to help students, to decrease learning gaps. We want the best for our students. We work very hard. I would not have succeeded in life or became an educator if it wasn't for my Black mother, who's a counselor and a teacher, and my Black coaches who helped me. If it weren't for them, I wouldn't have graduated or became anything. Since the district did not condemn his statements, do they agree with that? Do you want to condemn it? Why haven't you made any statements? Any other place had this gone on, the organization, the business, the corporation would have condemned the statements of the racist person. That's right. Yeah. And again, in conclusion, Black teachers do not increase dropout rates, we decrease dropout rates.
Our next speaker is Paulette Wellington.
But I know it can't be said in 2 minutes, so I'll just demonstrate. My name is Paulette Downs Wellington, and that Downs comes from this slave, my grandfather, Albert Downs, and my grandmother, Missouri Isabella Downs. I believe in formal education, and so do all of the teachers in this world believe in really teaching all of our students My grandparents were slaves. They were the parents of 12 children. This is my father, who became a college graduate, first generation from slavery. So did my mother. I am a product of the Jim Crow separate but equal. It is not and was not equal. We need to understand that. We need to know that. Look at her when she's talking to you.
Please stop your comments in the audience.
Call respect.
To wrap this up, let's look at good history, mathematics, sciences taught by good, dedicated teachers. All of them, black and white, Asian, whatever. Let's do that, because this is an excellent, excellent district. My two children graduated from Cy-Fair. Dr. Eric Wellington and Erica Wellington. My daughter is on the autistic spectrum. She is 52 years old, and she is truly my gift from God, because Cy-Fair helped my daughter graduate and become that graduate.
Please wrap up, ma'am.
Okay, then this is a good district, everybody. Let's
Please
get
wrap
on the
up.
friendship train and work.
Our next speaker is Clark Denson.
Good evening. My name is Clark Denson, and I happen to agree with that lady. Race shouldn't be an issue, and I think we're trying to teach our students, and I think we bring race into it way too much. We just need to practice getting the best people to do the job that care about the kids, and that's where I stand on that subject. Also, just happen to support Mr. Scott Henry, and that might seem a little surprising to you based on the statements that I just made, but I know the gentleman's a good man, so I'm just going to read this. One component of the Cy-Fair proposed equity program is to hire more black teachers in an attempt to equate the population and ethnicity of educators within the district to the student population. In a commitment on this objective, Scott Henry questioned the effectiveness of the recommendation by reiterating the statewide average of black teachers is 10%, whereas Cy-Fair is currently exceeding this average at 13%. Mr. Henry then pointed to the current statistics of HISD, which is cited in the report as exemplary, with a black teacher employment rate of 36% and a 4% dropout rate, and a student achievement rate much lower than CFISD. It was and is clear that the statistical correlation borne out of the data contained within the report, and not the personal opinion of Scott Henry. The deceptive and disingenuous editing of this clip has launched an overt attack on Mr. Henry, and it's a clear defamation and denigration of Mr. Henry's stellar character. The truth in its entirety is that Mr. Henry, in a statement clearly available for all to see, that this character assassination is an attempt to effectively omit Mr. Henry's expressed desire that no child, no matter their race or socioeconomic background, receive the same level of education from the district in which he expressed a few moments from that edited clip. I'll just finish by stating that
Guys, come on.
this whole affair is disingenuous, and it's a politicization, and we're turning race, and we're politicizing it, and we just need to stop the politicization.
Please wrap up, sir.
And get race out of our teachers and our school system.
Thank you, sir.
Our next speaker is David Chu.
Good evening, board, audience. Last November, Like many other people in the Sci-Fair community, I went to the polls and I voted. And like many of you, I was shocked in the past few days upon hearing the accusations leveled against one of the board members. And I had to hear his comments in full to make sure for myself what was being leveled against him. And when I did, I realized something. The claims that have been leveled against him are patently false. There was nothing that that board member said was when you consider the entire statement made, starting at the 49-minute mark and going to the hour, nothing could be construed as racist. And it would appear that not a lot of the people here have viewed the whole thing with an open mind or any shred of common sense. And yet, a contrived and perfidious lie has propagated across the community. No one on the board has done anything wrong. No one has said anything wrong. If this district is to remain a district of integrity, the board member in question will not resign. No member of the board will validate the slander brought against him.
Guys, come on. He's got to be able to finish. Go ahead, sir.
And this mob that has come here to slander this man will go home and reconsider their actions. And our elected officials at the county and the municipal level, our county judge, our mayor, ought to be ashamed of themselves for propping up this disgusting hoax.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Danielle Gamble is our next speaker.
Thank you, Danielle Gamble. A lot has been said already, and there's a lot of emotion in the room. And I want to first just come to you and ask for a call to action. We talk about what was said in reference to the equity and culture audit. And just to tell you a little bit about myself, I was a former educator for 13 years. I graduated actually middle school at Watkins, high school at Langham Creek, went on to teach at Cypress Springs, Cypress Falls, and Libai. As a student at Langham Creek, under the principal of George Hopper, Mr. Hopper, he was one of the best principals there. I was the first graduating class, first four-year class there. I endured the school shootout when Mr. Webster was shot. I went on to teach under Mr. Webster. I'm no longer in education, but I'm still educating every day. And I want to say to you, we have to vehemently, just completely refuse to put up with the behavior that we're seeing when statements like that are made. There's a show on TV on ABC that says, "What would you do?" And I love that show because it really shows how so many people don't get involved and many people do. And when you stand idly by and you don't get involved, it's just as if you are agreeing with behavior that should not be agreed with. And I want to talk a little bit about diversity. So going to school in Cypress Fairbanks, I experienced racism. I started out first in Waller Junior High, and I was an excellent student, honor student. I went on to middle school in Cy-Fair, and I could not go into, honors classes until my report card came to show that I was an honors student.
Please stop, ma'am.
I just want to say, and I will stop my last sentence because this is far from what I have on my paper. Diversity is needed in our schools, and diverse staff will bring about a better
Please
education
stop.
for our students.
Our next speaker is Todd LeCompte.
Todd LeCompte. I've got two boys that go to, or actually attend the school district. One's in 9th grade, one's in 6th grade. I'm here to discuss the equity audit. Like most kids, my kids have been, and probably your kids too, they've experienced being picked on at times. I did when I was a kid. But I don't teach my children to be a victim. I teach them to go to battle and stand up to bullies. You know what I do teach them? I teach them to stand for something or they'll fall for anything. I teach them that there are two things that will determine their success. That's their attitude and their effort, and to never get outworked by your competition. Where and when do these types of things get discussed in this school district? To be honest, I'm more concerned about my kid's grades than the race of the person teaching him. Seems like lots of these things being discussed in the school district is more focused on race these days rather than performance. Politics has infiltrated this school district. As adults, I look around and I'm just thinking to myself, we are failing our children. The way adults are even behaving at this meeting. Are we setting an example? I'm for equality. I'm for equity as well, but how do we do that? Do we fire teachers because of the color of their skin? If so, I can't support that. Is that what some people call progress? Now, it's funny, Martin Luther King Day is coming up on Monday. He was assassinated. He was assassinated, but he fought for equality. All right? I want people to think about that this weekend. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Glenn R. Ethanin.
Board members, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'm a 34-year resident of the Cy-Fair Independent School District. My wife and I raised two children in this school district. They received an excellent education in Cy-Fair ISD that provided them with a strong foundation to attend college, and in the case of one of our children, to go on to medical school. They are both adults who are now contributing in a positive way to society. Along their journey from elementary to middle school to high school, they had a number of black teachers. The black teachers who taught our children were competent, knowledgeable, inspiring, and caring, not just for the black children in their classes, but for all their students, whether they were Caucasian, Latino, or Asian. These teachers added to the success of Cy-Fair ISD. They did not drag the district down or contribute to the dropout rate. They were an asset for the school, and they were an asset for the school district, not a detriment to it. I, along with many of my neighbors, are appalled and highly disappointed in the comments that were made. His words were clearly stated and were meant to convey exactly what he said. In his world, black teachers are the cause of high dropout rates. His rationale for the dropout rate of the HISD is woefully misguided and incomplete. There are numerous factors that contribute to high dropout rates in a school district, such as underfunded schools and economically poor neighborhoods. Why blame black teachers? In the racially charged atmosphere that exists today, that are fueled by comments like those, they're an easy
Please
target.
wrap up, sir.
Cy-Fair is a forward-thinking, diverse school district that
Please
is
wrap
growing.
up, sir.
We're moving forward. We cannot afford to go backwards.
Please stop,
We
sir.
cannot afford to go back to Jim Crow.
Please stop, sir. Our next speaker is Linda Nuttall.
We have difficulty understanding one another because we define words differently. I'd like to start with the word equity. In CRT speak, that's critical race theory speak, it means equal outcomes, not equality. What they're looking for are things that are unbalanced between one race and another, and then they attribute the cause to being systemic racism. It could be many other causes, but that's what the a priori decision is. And then they make recommendations that will install contracts with their prescribed vendors to stir up more evidence, and that's racist. At our meeting on Monday, we learned that the board had a definition for equity at the time. Educational equity is about ensuring all students are successful. It's about removing barriers to student success. It's about working to close the achievement gaps. So it's about two things: resources. Do all the students have the resources they need to be successful? And are we removing barriers that are preventing them from being successful? That sounds pretty good. That's not what equity means when you bring in an equity audit. I'm not against ensuring that all students have the resources they need to succeed. I think we need to be more precise about removing the barriers preventing their success. One of the biggest barriers is a dysfunctional family situation. If we could teach children the formula for success, which is graduate from high school, get a job, get married, and then have children, then we would get 98% out of poverty by doing that regardless of race. And that's one of the things that we know in social.
Please wrap up.
What I heard from our school district on Monday was...
Please wrap up.
Yes, I am doing my last sentence. Was that we should not use race in hiring because the evidence shows that it doesn't bring about the results that we want. That's what I
Please
heard.
stop, ma'am.
And I don't understand why
Thank
other
you, ma'am.
people heard something
Please stop,
different.
ma'am.
But we, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Our last speaker is Bishop James Dixon.
Thank you to the board, President, and to all of you who serve and give your time for the betterment of our children, to all of the parents and all of us who've gathered tonight. This is a very difficult conversation to have. The reality is America is at a crossroads, and so is Cypress Fair ISD. Will you choose to turn right and take the path of racial equity and justice and equality, making sure that every parent, every child, every faculty member understands that they are valued not based on the color of their skin, but on the content of their character? The reality is the statements that were made were hurtful, insulting, offensive, demoralizing, ill-informed, even if not ill-intended. But ignorance is not an excuse when you hold positions of high influence, because every decision made in this district affects black teachers, brown teachers, black students, white students, and all the same. Without a view of equity and equality, one is not qualified to represent a district this diverse. And so the NAACP joins all other organizations asking this board member should step down. That is not a mean-spirited statement. That is not a mean-spirited statement. It just has to do with competence and qualification. Here's the reality. Do the history. How many people here were educated by a black teacher? Raise your hand. So when you say that black teachers lead to low performance and dropout, raise your hands again. If you've been blessed by a black educator anywhere in your life, this is what black teachers produce. I close with this. Booker T. Washington
Please wrap up, sir.
was a teacher. W.E.B. Du Bois was a teacher.
Sir, please wrap
Fannie
up.
Lou Hamer was a teacher. I close with this. Yes, sir. When we value greatness and brilliance, even when it's black, all of us are better.
Stop.
And we're all better together. Thank you.
Please
God
stop.
bless you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that concludes our public comment speakers for this evening.
Okay,
to the
no,
audience.
no.
Please. So we're going to take.
Sir, another outburst, and I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Please stop shouting from the audience. The audience portion, this portion is over. Now the business portion is going to continue.
I don't have board comments on mine. Yeah, I turned it. We will now proceed with the board comments portion of the agenda. Any board member may make a comment during this portion of the agenda without prior posting being required. Comment items may not pertain to the character of any student, staff, or board member and may not be discussed or deliberated upon at this meeting. I will start to my right, Mr. Henry.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. The teachers of Cy-Fair ISD are the district's most important assets. I've always believed so, and I've said as much on Monday evening. I'm proud that our district has had the higher average of state, pardon me, I'm proud that our district has had higher than average statewide average of black teachers. I serve the teachers, students, taxpayers of this district. I was elected to, among other things, to do my part in being a good steward of taxpayer funds. Part of my responsibility includes analyzing proposals from vendors, contractors, and consultants. But because I dare to disagree that equates to a higher student retention rates, there have been threats upon my life, my wife, and my children have all been targeted. I will take that responsibility for not saying the words so eloquently, but I feel very passionately about our kiddos in Cy-Fair and providing an equitable education to all. Let me be very clear. Any suggestion that I said more black teachers leads to worse student outcomes is a lie, and those spreading it should be ashamed of themselves.
Audience, please be quiet.
If you disagree with what I said, express it. I'm glad my comments motivated interest in the school board because 2 nights ago, not even a quarter of the seats were filled up in here. Seeing all of your support for our teachers and our children is a blessing. Their engagement for our students and teachers is a need from our community. But we have become so dysfunctional as a community that the line of questioning from a trustee to a contractor proposing a multi-year, multi-million-dollar contract means that that trustee deserves to be attacked in every way possible on every platform? Of course not. I reject that, and so should you. Our district will not get ahead of its political factions when they use it to get even with each other. If you don't agree with me, let's talk about it. Ask me questions. Sometimes courage means stepping into the arena to have difficult conversations. That's what we're here to do, and I know you are here to do it too. But don't forget about each other's humanity. We are neighbors. We're parents. We're a community. Having these difficult conversations should not mean lives are in danger. I see you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your thoughtful discussions tonight as well.
Dr. Blassingame.
Thank you, Scott. To every teacher, to every student, to Ms. Crosby, I love every student, I love every teacher, and we are here to serve each of you and all of you to make sure that we accomplish every goal that was stated for our community. I'm a passenger on Ms. Paulette Wellington's friendship train. I think that would be a great place for us all to come together to achieve our purposes. I loved Pastor Nathan's prayer for wisdom today. It will take that. I love the example of our female cadets in the ROTC, showing great symbols of both equity, equality, and excellence. I congratulate the Bridgeland students who showed excellence creating a video showing a way that students have, not just in academics, but in all aspects, are able to be excellent in our system. We do have a lot of work to do together. And I appreciate that all of you came out as engaged citizens. You came to this room today, or those who are watching online, so that we can get the work done, because that's what's going to take. Because guess what? Very little talk today was about the real core thing we have to take care of. We had an achievement gap before COVID, and COVID exacerbated that. Looking at our last data report and what we'll hear today in the taper report, and the same statistic of meets expectations that was used in the equity audit report, do we know that currently only 56% of our students are at meets expectations in reading, and 46%, very drastically impacted by COVID, are meets expectations in mathematics? That is terrible. I'll point you all to an NIH study done here in Texas. The study is not a new study, and it's one you can find, and I have copies if you need it. That approximately 80% of prison inmates in Texas, in a study that was done by the NIH, a robust study, were functionally illiterate. And of those, another 47.8% were found to be deficient in word attack skills, basically dyslexic. That is a school-to-prison pipeline if we do not address the literacy needs of our students, all students. We have to come together to work to make sure that we're laser-focused about our solutions being focused on our students and their learning. There are many things I care about. There were not many things I didn't disagree with in this room today. But what I do know is that our job as a district, a school district, is to educate our children so that we can give them a hope and a future, so they can be prepared for their future. I loved your story here, sir. He has these graduates who went on, now they are masters and doctorates, and they've gotten degrees. That was based upon a good education. Our founding principles to do that first. I would like us to take all our energy and focus it on getting every kid reading and doing math that gives them every door of opportunity. And we can do that together if we all engage. The time for experimentation is not now, and nor is the time for politics. The time is for us to roll up our sleeves and get to work for our kids on the things that matter most. And that's not for all children in Sci-Fair. I know what, not for all children, no, for each child in Sci-Fair. We don't talk about 80% of the kids will achieve this score in literacy. No, each child needs to achieve that in literacy. 80% means 20% of them are left behind. And guess who's probably left behind in that 20%? We know the achievement gap, it was pointed out tonight. We have to roll up our sleeves and do the work that actually matters. Labeling issues is not going to take care of it. If we achieve every metric in that equity audit, and we will all laud ourselves on the back for being excellent, being a great administration and a great board that gets Ward of the Year because we achieved those metrics. And not one more child will be able to read because of those metrics. Those metrics do not achieve literacy. We have to get real about the real work. I intend to hold us, the board, accountable. A monthly report when we're creating our board monitoring system, and we've already, thank you, Linda. Linda and I have had super productive discussions already. They've already reached out to other districts that are doing some work. Let us discuss actual reading data in this room every month, and let's take care of each of our children in Sci-Fair ISD. And when we have done that, we will be the shining star and the shining example. And I would love one of those shirts over there. I don't know if you made that yourself, but our Black teachers shine. I would love you to. Will you make me one? Thank you, because yes, every child will shine in our district, and every teacher is a shining example in our district. And when you know what the metric is, we're getting it done for the kids. And so I speak very passionately about it. And guess what? Because I have played at this game of education for 29 years, and the next fad and the next fad and the next fad came, and they didn't make a difference for the children. I have seen us talk about all the things. We have to do the things that make a difference. And I know we can, this group, with the incredible passion and the intelligence that was spoken of here, and everyone's time and energy put to it, we can do it. So I look forward to the super bright future shining here in Sci-Fair ISD. I'm proud to work with every colleague up here. here to get that done. And this amazing administration, this district has outpaced. This district has done incredible work, but guess what? Poverty matters. And we are getting increasingly lower SES, and that means we can make metrics like this and pretend we did something, or we can actually do the hard work there is and change that trajectory for kids in poverty and all kids and each child in CFISD. I am so pleased and proud of this group that's here. I hope I can count on you to be part of the solution with all of us. Let's get it done. Y sí se puede.
Mr. Sarabia.
Welcome, everybody. I was a little bit different this past month from the my usual months of going out and visiting the different areas of our district. I came down with the variant right over Christmas holidays, as my wife and others in my family would just kept me at home and within a confined area quarantine. So I did not get to get out as I usually do and visit with the district as I usually do. I'm going to read a statement here that left me many sleepless nights in recent days. We up here, I up here, hear the anger and the disappointment from our community and surrounding areas and our surrounding districts. We as a district are 78% minority. I see the left, I see the right, I see the moderates. Ugly words are being spilled, and feelings are being hurt beyond despair. I have heard from many in our community on what are you going to do, Gilbert? I have been on record before on this. I have faced some sort of racism and prejudices before. I have gone over that before. Been told to go back to Mexico by strangers. Looked down on before just because of the color of my skin. My grandfather served in World War I. My father in World War II in the Pacific Campaign. And countless other relatives in every war imaginable have served our country proudly. What would my father-in-law, Pete Medina, think now, who fought in World War II, Normandy, under Patton, Battle of the Bulge, liberated concentration camps? When he entered, he thought it looked like snow, but it was the furnaces that were burning 24/7 till they were liberated. And upon his return here to Texas, he couldn't even eat at a restaurant on his way to San Antonio with his family. Prejudices exist in all races, not just in whites. It's a misconception. Am I woke? I didn't even know what the word woke was. I didn't know I was woke until Monday because I felt it right away. In HISD, I have friends there. I have family. My son teaches high school math at HISD. He's been offered here in this district and has chose his own path and challenges. He has excelled without one bit of help from me And I couldn't be any prouder of Jared Sarabia. What would I have done if Monday night the word brown educator came out and not black? I took a 24-hour cooling period that I offered to my players' parents after a particular game when their kids don't get in the game. They want to shout at me, give me 24 hours cool down period. And that's what I did. I stated Monday that I appreciated the audit report. Yes, we authorized it, the previous board did. It's an audit, which is usually uncomfortable. Lastly, I want to apologize to our community, our students, our employees, our administration, and most of all, our educators throughout our district and neighboring districts. I had that talk again since Monday night with my children. Dad, what happened? What's going on? I'm sure some of you had that talk again with your children. Many a sleepless nights. Last night up till 3 o'clock, up at 7:30. I sought spiritual counsel within the last 24 to 36 hours to help me with this message. Lastly, to my family, my sons, my daughter-in-law and wife, Ginger. Believe in the better good of mankind. Give people a chance. Stay informed. Don't stray abruptly. Serve your community. Trust in God and family. Thank you, Tom.
To my left, Mr. Scanlon.
Thank you all for coming. In my background, I've been both an educator and I've been a musical clinician. I taught as a clinician in Clear Lake ISD, in Klein ISD, in Pasadena ISD, and in Alief ISD. The time that I spent in both Clear Lake and in Klein was exactly just 1 year apiece. The time that I spent in Alief ISD was about 3.5 years. The time I spent in Sam Rayburn ISD was about 3 years. During that time, I ran into kids of every single socioeconomic level. And I chose to spend my time where kids needed me most. And it was an honor and a privilege to be able to connect with those kids. I know them today. I'm on Facebook with them today. I know and I've seen pictures of their kids today. I want the community to realize that we're here and we took a job freely, committed to our kids in this community. My daughter is one of the kids in this community. We've been here in this community. I'm committed to serve this community and every single child. As I've served kids of every single socioeconomic level, I'm well aware that some kids, as I mentioned Monday night, it's simply their objective to survive. They need to get home and they need to come back. And for them, that is good for where they were. And when I work with those kids and I challenge them and I give them something that they can attain to, they find success. I continue to encourage them. And guess what? They feel proud. They find measures of success and they grow. And they attain levels that they didn't think they could when they started working with me. And I did that both at Sam Rayburn and a day leave. So for the kids in our community here in Cy-Fair, I'm committed to understanding where we can provide great access to opportunity so that our kids can succeed. I'm committed to supporting our children so that when they have access, they're held accountable to access that opportunity and make with it what they will. It's their responsibility. And my job is to make sure that I do everything I can in working with the rest of my board members and this wonderful administration team. I've only been here for a little bit, but I guarantee the commitment here is unparalleled. That those children have the opportunity to succeed, and all of them, every single one of them. And so, regarding the equity audit, I'm committed to understanding the information within it, all of it. And then with our board, we're going to work together and find opportunities to improve. And we will make meaningful change. I will find a way to support our team and understand and work with our community. So I look forward to these conversations. Some of them are hard conversations, and that's okay. I'm fine with challenging conversations. But I will find an opportunity for our kids to be healthy, vibrant, and to be successful. One of the reasons that I'm committed in the way that you hear to a strong classroom culture is from my own failures. And I'm going to be a little bit transparent to that. But when I began my college education, actually my high school education, leaving that, I did not have a good GPA. I was someone that was a lackadaisical student. I looked for opportunities to figure out how to skate the system. I was good at it. And then I got to University of Houston, and through my practices, I earned myself a 2.1 GPA. You can imagine how pleased my dad was. However, in the midst of my failure, I realized that I was wrong and that I had to take responsibility for my actions. And I did so in a way that I never did before. I told all of my friends, I'll see you later. I hired a tutor. I taught myself physics with that tutor because I didn't know it when I started. And I went from a 2.1 GPA there to 2 master's degrees at Rice, and then I went on to Harvard. And so the thing that I'm committed to bringing to each and every kid in our classrooms is the courage to commit to yourself, to find a path that works for you, to learn how you learn best, and to have and provide for them the tools to be able to do that. That's for every single one of our kids. And if someone challenges that that's not true, talk to me, because I promise you that is my level of commitment. Because I don't want them to go through the same mistakes that I did, and I want for them to be able to have the same commitment to themselves, that they can learn, that they can grow, and that they can change. And so I look forward to this community engaging. I am truly sorry for the hurt that's going on in this room, and I will do my part going forward to earn trust. Thank you.
Ms. Blackshear.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Can you hear me okay, Tom?
Absolutely.
Good. Okay. First of all, I want to thank the school district for helping me set up the technology so that I could fulfill my responsibilities and duties as a trustee to attend these meetings. For those of you who may not know, I am a COVID survivor from the Delta variant this past summer and had quite a journey back and was doing very well when I developed pneumonia and spent 6 days in the hospital over Christmas. On the advice of my doctors, I am isolating at home. I'm only to leave for doctor appointments, and that is because the Omicron variant is so very highly contractable, and it would not be good for me to get COVID again. As a matter of fact, it could be take my life. So I so appreciate the opportunity to be able to participate in our meetings, and especially this month when we have a lot of important issues that have come before us. And I too am very thankful and grateful for all of our community members, parents, teachers who have turned out tonight to express their concerns. I wish we could see this at every board meeting so that, you know, maybe it wouldn't lead to some misinformation out there, and so you could hear directly from your trustees. On the issue of our equity audit, I am going to reiterate what I said on Monday night. We don't have to embrace everything that was in that audit, but I believe there is some value and merits for further discussion. You know, I've been on this board now starting my 7th year, and I can assure you, hiring more diverse our teachers so that our ratio of teachers more clearly matches the diversity of our students has been one of our ongoing goals. The reason it has not yet been achieved is because our district is committed to hiring not just to meet ratios, but to hire qualified teachers to teach our students in our district. And I believe we have done a good job. Would we like the numbers to be different? Of course, but we all know that these past 2 years during this pandemic, we have lost teachers, and it is hard to recruit and find teachers. This district is willing to recruit and hire. We're just having trouble finding teachers who want to be in the classroom at this time, period. And I know I can tell you as a trustee that I do want our ratio to reflect the diversity of our students, but I don't believe that is quite possible at this time. But I can promise you that as a trustee, I will work with the district to help us look towards and continue that goal. But again, I'm not satisfied, nor do I believe any trustee nor our district is satisfied just to hire a body to teach because of their ethnicity. And, you know, there are many components that make up a successful student, and I agree that academics is very important for our students. But it's just not only academics that creates the whole student. It's a variety of things. And we are a diverse district, and we have kids who have special needs. We have students who are economically disadvantaged. We have students that live in homes where maybe they don't have parental support. We have students that are homeless. I mean, you'd be surprised by the number of homeless students in our district. So I see the value in this equity audit as us discussing and looking to make sure that we are providing for the whole student, not just academics, and that certainly is important. And I believe that we are doing a good job on that. We know we are, according to other districts in our state. We're not satisfied to just be leading. We do want to be the best, but we need to ensure that our students receive a robust education, and that is academics, that is your extracurricular. There's just a number of factors that feed into that. And I look forward to working with all of our trustees. I think we are going to get there, but you know, when you have 3 new members on the board, there is a learning curve. And I think in time, as we work together, discuss the issues, that we will find common ground. And I can assure you that I have a deep appreciation for every teacher, staff member, administrator. Being on the board for 7 years, I have seen how hard everyone works together for the good of our students. And I commit to you that that is always my goal, is what is best for our students. And I want to make sure that that graduation rate is one day 100%. Do I think it's attainable? Probably not. But I think it's something that our district really is working to achieve. And I want to see that my greatest thrill of being a trustee is graduation ceremonies and watching our students who have completed their education in Cy-Fair ISD walk across that stage and receive their diploma. And I am going to continue to strive to see that every student reaches that pinnacle and receives their graduation diploma. Thank you.
Ms. Heineman.
Thank you. It's obvious from tonight's turnout that many community members have strong feelings on the issues being discussed. That's understandable. I usually start thinking about and working on my board comments over the 2 or 3 weeks leading up to one of our formal board meetings. But of course, reflecting on the events of the past few days has added weight and additional scrutiny to the words spoken here tonight. I am grateful for the many messages of support and positive feedback I've received over the last few days from teachers, parents, campus leaders, other district employees, parents, again, and retirees. One parent and community member expressed fear for his personal safety by attending tonight's meeting. I personally do not share this fear, but I understand that some do, including some employees who could not help but take comments made on Monday very personally. I respect that others' experiences may be different from mine, and the roles that we have may be different, but they are all valid. My fear is for the damage done to the morale of our teachers and staff. My fear is to the impact to our administration, especially after 2 intense, stressful years dealing with the pandemic and its effect on students and staff. I supported the resolution against racism and the request to have an equity audit conducted by an outside firm for our district. I was one of the trustees who voted unanimously for it. Truth is very important. There is no multi-million-dollar contract. It is not a political organization. Please, please do your own research and get the facts. And I encourage, it's very important that in order for things to work here, we're going to have to be honest and be truthful. For those who have attended or watched meetings over the past couple of years, you know I always try to end my comments by sharing a positive story about a teacher or a student. This week, while I was mentoring at one of our high schools, I observed a teacher working tirelessly, one-on-one with a student who had missed several days of school and is falling behind in his classes. She listened to his excuses and his reasons and his worries. She was focused on holding him accountable while also expressing empathy and care. She told him that she wants him to be successful. She believes in him. She is here to help, and she's not giving up on him. This is what our teachers do every day. One of the girls I mentor and I were playing a game of Uno, and this may seem like play and maybe even a waste of time, but this is a student I've been meeting with since the start of the year, and she has barely spoken a word. It can be disheartening and sometimes frustrating when you're trying to reach a student and you just can't break through. But I'm not giving up on her. The highlight of my day on Wednesday is when she laughed out loud when she beat me at Uno. It was a little spark of joy. I also got to celebrate with one of our older folks in our community. She is the grandmother of a student that has received an appointment to the Air Force Academy. And she raised this amazing young man. By the way, each of these 3 stories is from one of the schools that was called out by one of my colleagues at the last meeting. We can talk about data points and KPIs all day long, but we are actually talking about kids. Kids who may not look like us or speak the same language or live in the same neighborhood as us. Kids who all deserve the very best that we can give them. I encourage my colleagues to spend time on campuses that they've never been to before, that their own kids don't go to. Spend time listening and learning. Our school visits are not meant to be inspections or chances for a gotcha. We do not govern by gotcha, and we do not govern by gossip. I know that governance is a hard concept, not just to understand, but to put into practice. I also know that I am not always right. I make mistakes. I read something recently that said, if you think you're always right, then you are not learning. I am still learning, and I certainly, again, don't believe that I am right all the time. There are people in this room who are experts in education, and I respect their expertise. There are people in this room who are experts in HR and IT, back row, and student services and discipline and health services and facilities management and transportation. I respect their expertise. It is good to ask relevant questions from the dais as a board member. It's okay to question. It is not okay to call for someone to be fired without due process or without consideration during a board meeting. As a board of trustees, we have a commitment to work together to close achievement gaps and remove barriers to student success. While we may have our differences, what unites us, what should unite us, is a commitment to ensuring all students are treated with dignity and respect and provided the opportunity to succeed in school and in life. One of the parent speakers tonight asked two questions of the board. He said, "Do you care?" And my answer is yes, I do. And he said, "Will you do the work to make the district better?" And my answer is yes, I will.
Those of y'all who have watched me give my board comments know that I always have a standard outline. I talk about the many stops that I've made in the district, those things that I have seen. But for tonight's meeting, somehow that did not seem to be quite appropriate. We have all been new trustees before. As new trustees, we all stub our toe. It happens not just in this district, it happens across the state. I went through Leadership TASB. I have mentored brand new trustees from other districts. The mistakes we make all tend to be somewhat identical. One of the most difficult transitions to make to go from citizen to new trustee is knowing the fence line that separates management from governance. Being a trustee is unlike any other elected position. It is not our job to act on behalf of citizens and step in to solve their issue. It is our job to refer their issue to the appropriate management line so that it can be addressed in that fashion. No other elected official really has to do that, but we do. As board president, I have a curious obligation. It is my job to reach out and touch colleagues when I think perhaps they're getting too close to the line of management or perhaps when they step across it. I will say that I myself have been counseled by my colleagues for crossing that line. An example is, with or without due process, we can never call for the termination of an employee of the district. And the reason is simple. We aren't management. Not our job. A trustee that I was asked to mentor from a school district along the coastline close to Corpus Christi thought it was their job to get rid of the ag teacher. I had many long conversations with them that wasn't their job. But this is something that crosses the mind of almost every new trustee that I have ever spoken about. So I asked for a little forbearance. It takes a while to learn the job of trustee. I know you'll be upset with us when we stub our toe, and that's okay. But we'll pick ourselves up and we'll keep moving on. It is also not our job to take over the role of an associate or assistant superintendent or even a director. We want to. Some of us are qualified and competent to do that. But once again, we can't do that. No matter how much talent we bring to the table, it's not our job to do that. What's also funny is each trustee has an obligation to each other. And so that means for my colleagues here, if you see that I'm crossing that line trying to do this man's job, it's your job to yank me by the collar and pull me back. We only succeed when we work together as a team, all of us. But that we don't do management's job, and management in turn will not do our job. Our motto in this district is opportunity for all, and I was saddened when one of my colleagues said that they didn't like that. I don't know what my colleague meant, and I apologize because I did not ask. But I like the motto. I think it says exactly who we are. We offer opportunities for all of our students and all of our staff. It has been that way ever since I was on the board, and I will do my best to make certain it stays that way. On Monday evening, we had a 4-hour and 37-minute board meeting. I was tired. I know some of y'all in the audience who stayed for all 4 hours and 37 minutes were tired. There were comments made about a neighboring district. Let me tell you, I support this district. I think it's the best district in the state of Texas. But we can't cross that line to disparage other districts. In that line, I posted a phone call to the president of that district. I also sent an email offering my apology. As board members, what's funny is people actually listen to what we say, and we should always strive for clarity, and clarity is always difficult to achieve. A cornerstone of this district is the concept of visibility. That's visibility with a capital V. It doesn't mean that you sacrifice excellence. That concept was first explained to me over lunch by my friend Judi Lee Giles Jr. Some of you may actually remember who he is. He was a Bush appointee. We were both new hires, fresh out of college. We knew enough to figure out where the coffee pot was and not much more. But that was something he knew more than I did. Subsequently, all anecdotal observations and conversations with people whose judgment I value, as well as research studies, indicate that visibility is a key to academic attainment, and that is, in fact, our job. I appreciate the fact that I, and I'm sure as my colleagues, members of the community have reached out to me. We have heard you. We will strive to work together as a board for the betterment of our students and for our community. As I said, I did not suspect there would be any shortage of passion or rhetoric tonight, and I was not disappointed. I love passion and rhetoric, particularly when we all are moving in the same direction going forth. We have some conversations to have. They will be messy. Please put up with us as we are messy. I ask for your forbearance in that regard. And in closing, let me make the standard comment that every other year we always make at this time. I want to say thank you to the schools and the principals and the students. You came to say thank you to us. It took time and effort on your part. And in turn, I would say for myself, but for my colleagues up here, we thank you for the privilege of serving you. And with that, my comments are concluded, and we will have a 5-minute recess. The meeting is now reconvened. Citizen participation. Patrons who have duly registered per policy BED local may address the board regarding matters of concern and interest to the district other than the character of any student, staff, or board member. The board may not act upon any matter that is not listed under the action item portion of the agenda. We don't have as many speakers in this portion of the agenda. I know everybody will be somewhat disappointed. Our first speaker is Sakina Bradford.
Good evening to Dr. Henry, to Mr. Tom Jackson. I am Sakina Bradford, speaking on behalf of SELF. I, in the past, have been a familiar face at these board meetings, and I've always prepared a statement, but tonight I really wanted to speak from the heart and say that as a Black educator in this district for over 15 years, I think it's 16 years now, I have always felt welcomed and supported in this district by our administration, this board, and our parents and our students. Black teachers are excellent in this district. We are well prepared, we are qualified, we're certified first and foremost, or you would never be hired in this district. Highly qualified. And I am very hurt by those comments that were made Monday night. Many of my colleagues are hurt, many of our administrators are hurt. Our community is hurting. And as a teacher standing here tonight, I want to take the opportunity to say thank you to the board for your work over the past couple of years. It's been very difficult in the classroom. Our students are facing many challenges. Our parents are facing many challenges. We have a tough road ahead of us to close the achievement gaps. Our students need us, all of us. They need our curriculum, they need our hearts, they need our passion, our energy, and we want our parents to continue to support all of us in this district. We need equity, we need diversity, and I want to encourage you to continue with that work. Do the good work that the community has voted you in to do. And I also just want to say, dig deep. If you really want to know why our students are dropping out of school, talk to them. Try to contact their parents, interview them. And I am sure they would never say, it's our teachers. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ryan Irving Jr.
I'm going to say it again. It was once said,
When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Sister Maya Angelou. Good evening, Superintendent Henry, President Jackson, Board of Trustees, and to all of the Cy-Fair community. My name is Ryan Irving, a product of CFISD and the current president of Cy-Fair Civic Alliance. The remarks that were made at Monday's board meeting were not only hurtful, but absolutely disgusting. To see someone that is supposed to be representing all children, stakeholders, in a district that is 78% minority, that made openly racist remarks is absolutely saddening. Part of this individual's response states, and I quote, "I am not a politician, and I don't care about politics." Then he goes on to say, and I quote, "I just care about our kids and their public education." Unfortunately, my words are getting twisted by political actors for political purposes. No. It is unfortunate that we have you sitting in a position of power representing children with your racist remarks. I have one question. If you, sir, do not care about politics, then why did you run for this office using a partisan right-wing platform that divided our district? I also want to note this individual does not represent conservatives in our community. CFCA, as well as I, do not tolerate racism, sexism, or hatred of any kind. We not only condemn this individual for his remarks, but call for the immediate dismissal and or resignation of this individual. To the other board members, I appreciate your apology. I also want to talk about courage. The courage to apologize when you've done something wrong, no matter the intent. To me is what is patriotic. You've called yourself a patriot in the past. My great-grandfather who fought in World War II, who was a part of the first all-black battalion that entered Germany during the World War, that is a patriot. My cousins who have served in Desert Storm, and my other great-grandfather that have served in Vietnam, that is what a patriot is. Lastly,
please wrap up.
I am. We look forward to the dismissal of this individual and to get back on what matters, which is our children. And lastly, never forget our district's motto, opportunity for all. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Latoya Crosbit. Our next speaker is Jennifer Lorenz. Our next speaker is George Edwards Jr., former trustee, Cypress Fairbanks ISD.
Good evening to the Board of Trustees, Superintendent, and District staff. My name is George Edwards Jr. After reviewing a recording of Monday's board work session, I've come to offer a few comments. I implore all of you to stop talking about race and inclusion and focus on teaching our students to read, write, do math, and reason. It is important that you as a board set a standard for academic excellence throughout the district. In order to do that, you must have high expectations for all students. In addition, be consistent with the standard. At a minimum, you should focus on having students reading for comprehension by the end of the third grade. At the district's November Community Leadership Committee meeting, the administration reported that black boys were failing academically. This is not acceptable and it must be reversed. As the first minority elected to the Cy-Fair ISD School Board and a longtime education advocate, you are making a simple problem more complicated than what it should be. Cy-Fair ISD has a long history, a long legacy of academic excellence and preparations of its students. My 3 black boys are successful men today because of the academic preparation they received in Cy-Fair ISD. Quality teachers have no color. Amen. They don't come in special color. Teachers make the difference in the classroom if they have high expectation for their student success and behavior. CFISD has done a good job of diversifying its teacher and administrative staffs in the schools. A good part of CFISD prior academic success was the district's reliance on parents and community, on parents
Please
and the
wrap
church
up.
community to play a role in the students' development. The district cannot do it by itself. The board should be careful about
Please
allowing
wrap up.
itself to be distracted by things that don't matter as it relates to student learning in the classroom. Finally, I want to thank all of you for your service to the students and the parents and the community in general. I wish CFISD the very best, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
We did stretch the rules a little bit for you, George. Our next speaker is Monica Dean.